I'm just allergic to
In San Ynez, there's
bites.
tons of tarantulas.
I hate it.
And they're like this.
Get fucked.
And they go, it's mating season. And the thing is going like
and then they look at
one
you.
foot every 2 minutes. I go, what, is he sprinting towards someone to have sex with? Because
Gee, talk about the slow plays. Like,
no, they really walk weird there, but they're slow. But they're in our house up there all
they
of a
go
sudden,
like this too.
creeping around.
Yeah,
that's it.
I am in Arizona. They're not. They go. Those don't bite. I don't think. I need more proof.
Tell that to my leg.
Yeah. Tell it's my swollen left nut.
I knew you were going there.
I know, it's horrible.
Tell it to my scrotum, okay?
Dude,
Nothing like a shark bite on your
Denny
lower
Johnson.
testicle.
Remember Denny Johnson?
Denny Johnson,
He
of
goes
course.
like this. The other day, he's got a van to travel for stand-up. He goes, the other day, I slammed my finger in my van. It got all big and purple and swollen, so then I slammed my dick in there.
That's a great line.
I know.
That's just a great joke.
He's the guy that said he wrote his whole act in one night when he was fucked up or something, and then he always has done that's when you could do your same act. I was going to ask Leno that if that's true.
There is a thing, a poison in a way, that people get 20 minutes the first week, literally, and then ride it for a half century.
That's what they used to be able to do. You just travel with it.
Three Stooges never changed their line. For a half century. They went on the road because they got nothing for their shorts. And they just...
Tom Segura.
Oh, no. Now we have a theme.
It works.
Well, I like the hand thing.
It works again. Tom Scrotum. What is his name?
Tom Scalacco.
Tom Scrogoga. He is...
Tom Segura.
He's Bert Kreischer's friend. Ooh, we're buddies. Gross.
2 bears, 1 cave. You think by this point they could buy a second cave, okay?
You know, I went to Sunglass Hut the other day. I go, this place is doing pretty well. I think they can move into a building.
Tom Segura.
Does well. By the way,
incredibly
everyone at
funny.
the airport looks like Bert Kreischer. I realize it's these big dudes with hats. Where's
I
Gate
know.
18? I'm like, hey, Bert. Hey, Bert. Everyone's Bert. He
Then
did 2 bears. You did Bert's podcast, right?
I did the half a cave and a kind of bear guy or something.
I did one igloo.
I was in Tom Segura's seat, I guess.
Ooh.
So I did 2 hours with Kreischer.
Jesus Kreischer, Carvey.
That is good for Dennis Kreischer.
Yeah.
Jesus Kreischer.
Tom Segura. Forget about Bert. This is Tom.
Segura. Well, let's just state some facts. The guy is a great stand-up.
Yep, great stand-up.
Check him out on Netflix.
Great podcast. Got in early. Does with his lovely wife, Christine. And they have a big one called Your Mother's House, right?
Early adopter was getting, we're going to break this down in this. You're going to listen shortly.
Yeah. You're going to shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen. But we're going to break down how he figured out the podcasting thing and what do you call it? You know, the knots are like 2000, 2010. What is 2010 to 2020? What do you call that?
Those are the teens, I think.
That's the teens? What if it's 12? You fucked me, man.
I don't know. Were you saying something? I don't know. Were you?
Well, it was like 2012 or 13. He was really getting into podcasting.
Yes.
And he's a scientist about how it influences your draw on the road. And we break all that down.
Oh,
we break down
he's on
things
a
a lot.
worldwide tour called I'm Coming Everywhere, which is a funny title. And he rakes in cash. Tour, podcast.
He tours around the world, Tom Segura.
Still some more money in the gutters.
Yeah, and then there's stuff in a trash can. Get the lid off. Kick the can.
Yeah, it's clean out the leaf bag.
As long as you say what you're doing, it's a perfect
It's all
sound.
funny noises.
Have you seen my character sound effecty?
Guy.
Gets
go.
in a car. Adjusts the mirror. Puts it in gear.
Gets a clown
It's all
horn.
the same. Gets a clown horn. It's like. Anyway,
So Tom Segura,
Tom
check him out.
Segura is our guest, and
We had fun with him.
he's really funny, fun, super smart, and he'll say just dry things. He's very like how Bert Kreischer is loud, and he's such a big presence, and Tom is the calm one. So they're fun together, and we've gotten them both. Mm-hmm.
We just go quietly until the podcast starts.
Start it. It's only an hour. You still have the rest of your
I know,
day.
what the fuck? It's only an hour. It's like
Only an
it's
hour.
like a ripoff.
I don't know why when we execute prisoners, it doesn't go well half the time and they come back alive.
They
and stuff.
don't have it wired.
Can you choose to be exploded or just hit in the head with a sledgehammer or Mike Tyson with a free punch? That's how I want to go out.
That's it. That's a great idea. And I don't think they really give you choices anymore. And they should. You should be able to say.
You should pick from 100 things.
How would you want to go out?
Well, first I would want to just chug a quart of vodka probably. I mean, I'd want to get really anesthetized. I've had operations where I'm coming to on morphine and they could have just chopped me in half. I couldn't care less. So I'd get vodka, morphine, and then I would try to run 100 miles in the desert.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. So like you'd want to accomplish something.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't have lofty goals anymore.
I don't know. What about you, Tom or David? What do you guys got?
I mean,
the feel good podcast of the year.
I'd like to see like if I could like really take a stab at, like how
many does it take? Like Woodsy the Owl when on the pop commercial. Mm-hmm. How many does it take till you go, all right, enough?
Yeah. Huh. What if it was like somebody just I've always wanted to see like push a safe off of a ledge onto somebody. Oh, yeah. So, do it to me.
I'd like Tony Robbins to push my head into that cold plunge pool he has and just hold me under, but
with
doing me a favor, because that guy's got meaty mitts.
He does.
This is one of our most interesting startings. But Tom Segura, Dana, is
an
American hero. He, I mean, I don't think you've heard that.
What did he do? He created a comedy empire outside the traditional system of Johnny Carson and Saturday Night Live. He's here right now, Tom. And he created a comedy empire leveraging this new technology. And it's brilliant. And his specials are amazing, I have to say. I heard a lot of your good stuff today.
Thank you. Don't forget, I hosted SNL twice, but keep going.
You did? That was back in when they weren't filming it?
That's funny because we get a Tom Segura guest prep. They would tell us that. Have they asked you to host recently? Tom?
Negative.
That's kind of strange because you've reached critical mass where they would think, check the numbers.
Well, you have to be on the radar because, listen, first of all, with SNL, you did grow up. And when you were growing up, did you watch SNL? Most people did.
So much.
And what was your chunk that you were into the most? Chunk of casting?
When you were 12 or 14 and what year? Like 19?
I mean, Dana is the fucking GOAT for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, you're the greatest.
Tom, I'm blushing if I could.
You are.
Thank you.
I mean, I was, of course, I was absolutely obsessed. I never missed it. And for that time period, so I was, I was born in 79, when you get into the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, that there's probably a 6-year window there where I don't miss a single episode. I think, that's like, that was what we did. I mean, I told David when we podcasted, it was like, we would watch SNL and then it's like Monday morning, you just go in and just repeat the lines, just do impressions. That's all we would do. I mean, just like all the impressions. And you're a fucking chameleon. I mean, you were amazing, Dana.
Thank you.
I know that David was there.
No, Lauren did say, David, I want you to be an extra. By the way, the funniest thing about Lauren is saying, I brought you in as a backup for Dana, knowing he was leaving. And I'm like, I don't even do what Dana does. No one does. Like, just because I have blonde hair, it's like, I do a whole different thing. But Dana was so good and so fun to watch that it made it impossible for someone like me to even contemplate going on SNL because Dana's like the quintessential SNL person. Funny, scores, goes into sketches, disappears, and any characters in the news, you play them.
And it's so versatile. And like you could have a standout, like the lead character, or like you said, you could walk through a scene and deliver a line. And I think that would probably be for like, and when I always imagine what it's like not to host, but to be a cast member. Cause it's like, obviously that's not a thing that'll ever happen, but like you imagine it. And I go, man, that would intimidate the shit out of me to be in a cast with you. I think I would be like, fuck, because you're so good at all of it that I would just be like, I don't know what I do here.
Well, it surprised me too. Just quickly, I did not have an enormous amount of confidence when I was cast.
Really?
And it was a little bit like, okay, I guess I got it. I felt a little sick to my stomach. But as I went forward, when I was trying to do stand-up as a sketch player without really great material, but just riffing characters, sometimes that was kind of difficult. But as I got up forward on SNL, I got more confidence. And that getting confidence is a magical feeling at whatever you're doing. Going back to our guest Tom,
no, it's
like when did you turn, like you start doing stand up and you're going along, and then at one point you kind of leap forward. Was it confidence, work ethic, or just time? I mean, how soon would you're going, I'm pretty much consistently can do an hour and pretty much consistently levitate the room? Well, or even when you felt confident, like when was the first time you said, okay, I'm going to do this?
I was definitely a relentless worker as a stand-up. So once I understood how the system worked, I was like, oh, like they let you MC. I was like, I just wanted to feature, right? Just wanted to be like the middle act. And I took every single offer all over the country to middle everywhere. And then when I cracked headlining, I just kept doing it so aggressively. Like we just worked. Like I never took, I hated having a week off. So I not like anybody enjoys that, but I'm saying it was just like a relentless pursuit of it. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of feel like, yeah, there's a thing where you go like, oh, I'm proficient at this. I know how to do this, but you realize it doesn't matter if people don't know. Like people would come to the shows and have a good time, but you're like, man, this thing's not going to change unless people buy tickets, to
see you.
Yeah, it's like
you're just there because they're coming to a comedy club in general.
Exactly.
But you need them to switch and go, because they used to have mailing lists and stuff, and maybe you did that.
Oh, I did. We call it, obviously they call it papering the room. It's like the club goes, hey, we're at this is the Omaha Funny Bone at the mall. And they just reach out to their list and they go, here's the act this week. And people go, who's that? And they go, well, it's a free ticket. And that's what I did. I just did those for years and years and did those over and over and over. But you get to the point where you're like, hey, I feel like I could sell a ticket if people knew who I was. But the only thing that was doing that at the time was just specials. You have to get like a special out. And that became just my goal, was to get an hour special out. And then when it did come out, it did change things for me.
First one changed things?
Yeah, well, the half hour did. That's the funny thing is I remember the producer at Comedy Central. I'm in New York and we're shooting Comedy Central Presents, which was like, I thought, a huge goal, right? Because every comic that I looked up to had a Presents. And I shot it and it went well. And I remember the producer pulling me aside going, this is going to change your road work. And I was like, really? And I got so excited, but I tried to keep it inside. I was like, oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you, God. And it came out. And when it came out, I saw like some stuff on social media or whatever. And then I was like, well, what's about to happen? And I called my agent and I was like, hey, I want to work this club. And he's like, okay. And he called and he goes, yeah, they said no. And I go, but I have a Comedy Central Presents.
But I did a Game Changer.
They don't care.
Everyone says Game Changer. My agents every year used to go, this is going to be your year. And I go, you fucking liar. Yeah. You say that every year and it gets me, actually, I believe it. I go, this one? They're like, yeah. I go, like they know something. I go, they just say that to shut you up. And I'm like, oh my God. Well, what should I do to prepare? And then that's what you were doing, is like, I got a Presents under my belt. That's funny when people go, you do a premium blend, you do a Presents. That's the lingo.
Dude, yeah. And I really thought like this is going to be a real thing for me. Like this is going to make things different. I really did.
I agree. Do you think that's you're famous? You go, I will be famous starting tomorrow.
Did you, from that first half hour, did you feel like I'll just get better? Or did you work even harder, or did you keep improving from that point? Because the writing I'm seeing now is so, as good as it gets. It's a bitch you're landing. and the acting you're doing in it. I mean, when did that come up? Was it sort of the first one that went on Netflix or something? Did you make leaps even, or was it just exposure? You were already completely.
I think I always stay. You know, it's funny. You're around comedians obviously all the time, right? As a comic, and you realize what a disease the bitterness of these guys.
Yeah, never hang out with comedians.
I hate you guys.
Yeah, it's like they're just like miserable about. They're like shit just never work, and I always tried to stay away from those like that, or at least you can't stay away from it, but you go, I don't want to embrace that. Yeah. And so I told myself that I was like, well, if this didn't change things like the way that I go, it's the next thing. And the next step up would be the full hour. So I was like, I need to do an hour special, which again became like my sole goal. And I only cared about being on Comedy Central because that was the spot. I was like, it was 2013. I was like, it's got to be Comedy Central. And we invited Comedy Central to see it. And they literally said, well, there's not really a theme. That was the feedback I got.
Oh, really?
I mean, I told my manager at the time, I was like, I think the theme is jokes.
You know, Tom, I'm more like that too. I look at some people's act and I go, when they do a whole special about something, I'm baffled. Yeah. I can't even come up with jokes about when you have the whole playing field. You can do a joke about anything in the world. And then when they go, I'm going to do them about my divorce, the whole thing. And you go,
the whole thing.
Holy shit.
And I still can't, all my hours are like bit about this, bit about that, I mean, it's never like, here's the
cohesive.
Yeah. So we ended up shooting it on spec and we still sent it to Comedy Central.
Oh, I love it.
Because they only seen like a version of it at a club. And I go, here's the finished product. And they said no again.
Wow. So how does Tom Segura, because I like to use the name in that context, how do you deal with that kind of rejection? Are you bummed out for a week? Or because I auditioned for SNL once and I followed Kennison at the store and it was a death trap and a death set. And I was kind of, I wouldn't say clinically depressed. I wouldn't label myself as depressed, but I was really,
he was so good.
I was bummed out for a couple months, just that's that. So when you hear no, now it's 2 times in a row. Are you pretty resilient? Obviously, you wouldn't be here. Do you take a knee for a day? I mean, you have a couple of beers. I mean, how do you process it? I'll show those motherfuckers. Might be a good way to go.
I'm definitely bummed. I'm definitely, in the moment, a little bitter. I'm definitely like, this is such fucking bullshit. I'm looking at the ones that they did choose, and I'm like, you took this piece of shit.
Oh yeah, I've done.
There you go. You look like De Niro for a second. You took this piece of shit.
Fucking piece of shit.
That's your hilarious theme act you love so much.
Also, like, what's the theme of this fucking dog shit?
Yeah.
Oh, the theme is dog shit. Okay.
Yeah. And then I actually got, I've said it before, but like the same call where I get the news that they're passing, I'm just on the phone. I pulled over. I was like out in La Cienega and I pulled over and I was like, okay, I'm just listening. He goes, and then he goes, by the way, we sent it to HBO. And I go, seriously? And he goes, yeah, they said no too. And I'm like, oof. Okay, why would you even tell me this? And then he's like, sent it to Showtime. They said no.
No, across the board.
I'm like, cool. And then he goes, but Netflix. And in 2013, it's like it's a thing, but it's not like the hot place to be. Yeah.
Yeah. House of Cards was around that time, or just maybe not happened yet? Because that was a big sea change. House of Cards, they're doing Kevin Spacey's going on Netflix. You were right at the edge of it, right?
Yeah, I think it's close, but I don't think it's out yet. And then he's like, no, like they're getting a lot of subscribers now. And I'm like, great. That's how the phone call ends. I go, all right, well, thanks. And I'm just kind of bummed out, but I go, what can I do? And what I can do is literally go back to work. So I just like go back on the road and I just act like, I guess I got to just come up with a new hour and try this again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That is probably 6 months before.
Well, wait, you you got the news that Netflix wanted your horrible hour.
Yeah.
And they're into bad comedy right now, and this is our window.
Yeah.
But you don't give it to them?
No, I do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Let's go like, fine. It'll come out, later.
Sure.
I'm like, whatever. And I just completely just move on.
You did the opposite. You didn't bank everything on it. You just said, fuck it. Good. Throw it out.
It's going to die on Netflix,
Yeah,
Flix, whatever it's called. It's going to
I
die.
thought it would definitely do less for me than the Presents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it came out. And I remember when it came out, again, you see some tweets and a couple of people said that, I stopped me. Hey, I was like, great. And,
great. Fuck you.
I didn't think anything of it. And then 3 months later, I remember I did the Cleveland Improv, and the manager comes up to me at the end of the week. He goes, I don't know why the fuck this happened, but you sold some tickets this weekend.
Wow, that gave me the chills, though. I mean, the fact that you're suddenly valuable in some way,
that's a rush.
That's a lifelong goal that you're like, wait.
That sentence.
Oh, yeah.
You're selling a shit ton of tickets. When that starts to happen, it's like.
And here's the thing. Here's how fucking removed from the correlation of the two. I was like, wait, why? He's like, no, I don't know why.
And he's shocked. That's how he doesn't think you're that good. Or just, I'm stunned, man.
He sends me the breakdown. He's like, look at this shit. And I'm like, what is that? He goes, well, you hit some bonuses, but he goes, I don't know, man. And then he just walked away. And I just thought, well, that was a good weekend. And I still wasn't like, oh, the special's working, And then the next few months, it started to happen more and more and more. And then it became a thing where it was like, hey, you sold out this weekend. The whole weekend sold out. That was probably after 6 months.
Wow.
It took that long to seep, right?
Yes.
Wow. And that was the one called Completely Normal, 2014.
Yeah, we shot it in 13. It came out in 14. And then by 15, I was just doing, by the end of 14, I was selling out clubs. And then in 15, I was doing rock clubs and, one-nighters and small theaters, or just I could I could go to a club on a Monday and just they'd give me the door, and I would just I started to work like that.
Casinos too, right?
Man,
casinos are where it's at. Yeah,
casinos pay more, but sometimes the audience can be a little tough.
This is a crazy inside baseball thing, but there are casinos, and this is really crazy when you actually just do the finance, the numbers on this.
Mm-hmm.
There are a number of casinos that will pay well over the gross of the show. And when you think of that, you're like, wait, what? The show is grossing X amount and they're going to pay you over that. And then you realize, well, there's a calculation that they do. Mm-hmm. They're like, if this many people come to the casino, we don't even care that we're parting with this, because these people are going to get rooms, gamble, drink, eat. And you're like, the way that it becomes a little ecosystem of an economy on in a night it's really fascinating.
Playing the Desert Inn in Vegas, which was an incredible room. Now it's the Wynn. It was blowing up. 600 seats, low ceiling. I go down for the sound check, and they got a Goomba type manager there. And I go, how are the ticket sales? How are the ticket sales? And this is a quote. Mark Pitta was there, my opener. He goes, what do I give a shit? I got Indonesians dropping 10 large upstairs tonight.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Indonesians dropping 10 large. But yeah, and they do the analytics. They told me they'll see what Carrot Top numbers are, or how much money is dropped in the casino that
on your night. Yeah.
Does your audience go out and then
does your audience
money?
Drink? Does your audience
get drunk and leverage their house?
Do our high rollers ask for your tickets? Because you can see the front row, and a lot of times when you do Vegas or any of these places, casinos, the front row is sparse or it's choppy because people go, give me tickets to everything. I'm a high roller. And they go, you got 2 tickets up front. If you want them, you got this. And, they walk in like Meghan Markle in the middle of your set if they want. But sometimes they go, nah, I think what the calculation is, they just need to get them. And the showroom's always in the very farthest corner of the casino. So they have to walk by and they calculate. They probably spend $22 on slots on the way out of boredom. They walk by our restaurants. They probably eat at one. Now they're aware of our casino because Tom Segura they've never come here. But because we're mixing up our acts, they go, oh, I'll go see him. And then they go, oh, I've never been to this casino. I'll come back. So they got to get him in somehow. They don't even want you to do your act.
Yeah.
They're just like, get him in, touch base, and go back out.
I just had this happen at a casino. This is wild. I'm backstage, and it's a big room. It's a 6,000 seat room. So
wow.
basically, it's what they consider a half arena, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That type of shell design.
Big, yeah.
Yeah.
Big room. And there's in those types of rooms, the way that it's laid out, it's kind of hard. You can't really peek out. They have huge, scaffolding and curtains everywhere. But I hear Kirk Fox, who's on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear him at one point go, "Hey, man." He goes, hey, man, you got to calm down, okay? And it's not like, I'm like, this is definitely some shit.
If Kirk is saying that, he's pretty chill. Great stuff.
Yeah, he's pretty chill, and he's like, he's so funny. And so it makes my ear, it catches my ear. So I turn and I'm like, what's going on? So I try to see, but I can't really see. I just see Kirk up there on the stage. And then, a few minutes pass, and he goes, hey, man. Hey, dude, I'm telling you, I want you to stay, but you got to calm down. And so then I'm backstage, and I got like at these big casinos, there's like 200 security staff. Like it's a lot of security, right? So they start coming around. I hear they're all on their walkies and their earpieces, and so I'm like, what is happening? And they're like, well, there's this guy in the front row, and I'm like, what's going to happen? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And they go, well, we think it's going to be too disruptive to remove him during Kirk's set. So what we're going to do is, because he's like getting through it, he's almost done. When he gets off stage and you're about to go on stage, that's when we'll remove him. And I go, hey man, it's your security. Do whatever you want. I just want to know what's going on. And they're like, that's what we're going to do. I go, okay, great. Kirk finishes he says goodnight. He walks off stage. They start playing a song, and that's like my cue that I have like 10 seconds, and then I walk on stage. So I walk on stage, and as I walk on stage, I grab the mic, and I see like 8, 9 yellow security shirts, big black letters on it, all gathered around this dude in the front row.
Oh God.
So I'm just, how's everybody doing? I'm just still like,
what's up?
And I grab the mic and I'm like, hey, and I can't even get out the first sentence. And this becomes mayhem, right? So like they are holding this guy, and I see his head pop out from under like a chokehold, and he goes, Tom.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He goes, I came to see you. And I go, what do you want me to do? And he goes, help me.
Oh my God. Help me.
I go, I think it's beyond my control now. They start to pull him, and dude, it's taking like 6, 7 guys. His girl pops up, and she fucking punches one of the security guys. Yeah. And I'm like, and I'm sitting here from the stage. I haven't started talking yet.
Everyone's watching, and you're all just watching.
Yeah. And there's the Jumbotron.
Watching you watch. Yeah.
Jeez.
And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. She turns and starts yelling at me too. I go, what do you want me to do? She takes her beer, throws it on one of the security guys.
Smart.
The guys start dragging the guy out. And when they drag him out, he takes them into an aisle. So he drags security guys into an aisle. I see shoes come off, pants come off. They finally get him stood up. Underwear's off. He's fully naked in the arena now, right?
It's Conor McGregor.
I'm like, oh my God. This guy's like, I would say maybe 5'9", 265, 270 pounds.
Okay. So looks good with his clothes off.
Looks great. It's a nice shot. I'm able to put like the show back on the tracks. I finally get off stage, and I'm like, dude, that was the fucking wildest opening to a show I've ever had. And they go, yeah, the cops here, that guy's in jail, blah, blah, blah. Like half an hour later, we're walking through the casino. There's the guy.
No.
There's the guy and I'm like, how is he walking around?
You betrayed me.
He doesn't see me. But when he walks by, we're all like, that's the guy.
Ah.
And we talked to one of the security people, high roller. He's a front row high roller.
Whale.
Yeah, he's a whale. They're like, yeah. I go, this dude like knocked one of your
And then what they get away with, unreal.
They're like, yeah, 10 grand a hand, dude. It's fine. It's totally fine.
Willing to look the other way.
So how long did it take you to feel like you're doing your set then after he goes out naked and they're screaming and fighting? Did you go into your set or you do like old club stuff where you kind of do all quasi crowd work?
You know, the funny thing is it's always less time than you think. Like in your head, you're like, that was 10 minutes. It's really like 3, but 3 minutes of talking about something that's happening in the room is a long time.
And it's not jokes and you're in uncharted territory. You don't know if it's funny. And you want to just start going, anyway, dogs are funny. And everyone goes, oh, we're back in the act.
Did you get an angle on it, Tom? Because your experience. Because a lot of times I would intuitively go from that guy's point of view. Let's go to the show tonight. It's going to be great. Or just find an angle about it, you know?
Yeah, I was making commentary about it. I was asking, when I was asking, like, I would see big muscular dudes, like, where were you? We needed you like a moment ago.
Okay, there you go.
Anytime that I would say something in the act that referenced like somebody who is out of their mind, drunk or drug, I'd make reference to the guy. He was like a callback thing.
Oh, built-in callback is nice.
I would also tell the people how I would reference other popular comedians and how they would not have gotten that at one of their shows. I was like,
oh, that's your crowd.
And that every night you have some naked guy fighting security guards. It's not a thing.
I was like, you think you're going to get this at a Sebastian show?
You know what's good? Dana, do you ever do this one where you go, these guys that work their jokes in, they go, they go, where are you from? And the guy goes, he wants to hear Cleveland. And he goes, Cincinnati. He goes, this guy last night was from Cleveland. And he said, and you go, was it always last night? And I go, I see the guy 7 nights in a row say it. I go, oh, that's just part of his act. If it's not what he wants to hear, or you could go, this guy last night started some shit in the front row. And then you say that for 3 years. Everything's last night.
Or what is the town that you mentioned that'll get a big reaction? Like I was in, Bucks County and, whatever town away, that just gets a huge laugh. In Fresno, it was Merced, I think, or, it's just.
You have to be a reliable person, Dana. They give you the wrong one and it bombs.
Yeah.
Just to fuck with you.
It's like at a corporate gig when they go, make fun of the crowd. And then the guy goes, I know everybody here. You know what's funny? Talk about our VP of sales. He has 3 balls and beats his wife. Say something about that. And I go, well, I don't know. And then you say something and everyone's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And the guy's like, isn't that hilarious? And you're like, no.
Jim has MS, but he's got a sense of humor about it. He really laughs about it. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So I remember Jay Leno telling me he was doing a corporate date and he's just making fun of some couple. Yeah, a lot of people, they hook up when they're on the road, this and that. And then the woman was next to the guy and she's got up and screamed and cried and ran out. It's just like, you don't know what you're touching.
Tom, when you were doing this with the Dana, I'm sorry, I have to go back. The information you didn't have, which might have helped, is what went on for so long. Was he pushing people? Was he yelling?
I found out. So when all the shit finally came, I was like, Kirk, what was happening? He was like, dude, and this is one of the worst things people think about, about heckling and stuff. He was repeating everything that Kirk said back to Kirk, but he's in the front row and loudly. So like, Kirk would be like, and then, I rode the bus. He'd be like, you rode the bus. Ha ha. The bus. So he was just like, hey man, like you just got to relax.
I just had that at the Comedy Store. The guy, I don't even know if something was up with him, but he looked like he was having a great time. And he just kept saying my punchline after to the people around him.
It's the worst.
But everyone hears it and it stops my next setup. And I'm like, I go, hey man, I try to be nice. And when they kicked him out, he was the same thing. He's like, David, Tom wouldn't help me, but would you?
Would you?
God. But he did say, hey man, he looks up to me. And that's the weirdest feeling. I'm like, I have to let you go now.
I had a guy on the balcony scream. Like, I don't even know what's going on. It's a balcony.
It's a melee now.
Theater. This is a different show. So I'm just on stage and he just starts to yell, they're throwing out the wrong guy. Right. And I'm like, what? And he's like, they're throwing out the wrong guy.
Wow.
And I go, I don't know. It sounds like the right guy to me. Like all of it too is always related to just booze. They're always just drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy in the front row was drunk. This guy's drunk.
Yeah. It's always alcohol. I sometimes will get, because of church lady, just someone in the back about every 10 seconds just going, lady, throughout my set. Lady.
So gross. Yeah.
That's why we love stand-up. When you have a hot
audience, when they start yelling at each other and it's pure chaos.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's like, hey, shut the fuck up. And he goes, fuck you. Yeah. And I go,
yeah, I love when the audience is heckling each other. This is fucking amazing.
Or that you look over and they're standing at the edge of the stage. A drunk guy, 6'5", is just standing there. He's on the stage with you now. Do you hold your ground? We ask him, do you hold your ground? I don't. I said, you got it. Go ahead. Some people, if they have a guitar, they'll fight try to fight for the stage. If someone storms it, I leave. But you look pretty like you could handle yourself physically, Tom. You probably could fight a heckler.
I don't know. Depends on if he's 6'5".
All right, make him 5'10".
Right. Oh yeah, I'm taking the mic stand and swinging it at him for sure. Yeah, let's go, man.
So what I'm curious about, to pivot for a second, if you guys want, is that fairly recently, because I've been at this a long time, you just started to make some money, real money. You're stacking money in the bank. It's happening, right? You're making real money.
It's Fort Knox over there.
And now it's just only 6-7 years later, and you have at least probably 50 grand net in the bank right now. So easy. But anyway, you've gotten incredibly successful in such a short period of time outside the systems. I don't have a question. It's just an observation. It's just an extraordinary story that we hear about as comedians. Tom's doing this. Tom did that. Tom did a live stream.
Tom. That's all I hear about.
It's really fun. And Sebastian. And then there's Sebastian too. There's just people.
Yeah, I hear about him. Well, you're doing a lot of stuff. Now, Tom, my question is, when you are doing, so you do sort of maybe like a formula where we jumped off. You do a special. It looks like you did one, mostly stories for Netflix. And then they asked you for another one. And your first one obviously seeped in. So you go, yeah, I'll do another one. But now you have to come up with a new hour, I guess. That's hard. So you do that. And now it's a system. Are you starting a podcast around now, or did you have it?
I started the podcast 3 years, almost 3 years before the first special.
Okay. So 2010 or 11.
Okay.
Late 2010, I started the podcast.
Okay.
The cool thing about that was those definitely started to feed each other.
Sure.
Even if, I don't know. I remember at one point, I think we had 20,000 listeners on the podcast, spread out. That's not that many people. But if you're just trying to do like a one-nighter somewhere and you're like, hey, I'm going to Chicago. And, of those 20,000 people listening, you might have like 1,000 in Chicago, and you might be able to get 400 of them to come out. That is actually a big deal at that point, because you're selling 400 tickets when people are like, how the hell did you get 400 people to come out tonight?
Mm-hmm. They're buying booze. It helps the club. It's
Oh yeah. That was a huge game changer then. And then when the special came out and people go, hey, I like this guy, or like, I liked your special. What else do you have? And, they discovered the podcast, some of them like it, some of them don't, but you're definitely bringing in a new audience of people. So those have continued. Every special and every year of the podcast, they've continued to grow, and they feed each other. And now there's just tremendous amounts of money.
Yeah.
Well, we're rich too.
I know.
No, I mean, I grew up incredibly middle class, barely. David, his nickname is Silver Spoon. It was always easy.
My parents were both strippers. I made money. I got paid in ones. I slept on a bed covered in ones every night. My mom would throw them out at me and my dad. Tom, you will get to this other stuff too. I have a lot of personal questions I have to ask you off camera.
You had a good year, Spade. Don't lie.
No, I'm fine. Well, I did an HBO special years ago, and that really didn't affect stand-up because I wasn't doing it much. I was on Just Shoot Me and stuff, but I wasn't out that much, so I do the Improv in Irvine or San Diego or something, which is great. but I wasn't really making a lot of money in stand-up. And so I didn't really capitalize off it other than it made me more known in some way, you know.
I noticed with Tom on the Disgraceful one, where the audience gave you a standing ovation, that was the 2018. That seemed to be another giant leap.
Yeah, that propelled the next tour to. Each tour has gone like another level. I mean, the current tour was a huge leap from the 2019 tour.
I looked at it. It's kind of unfathomable.
I'm
globally,
coming everywhere.
Yeah,
all over the world. And but I think going for my own head, the theme idea. You are the message. Your likability and relatability, and you can see where the audience go, that's our guy, because you're going into territory where you're working completely clean, and then you'll also just surprise everybody and go wherever you want to go, and then you'll make it okay. I get your popularity. I've spent a day watching all your stuff, so
thanks.
I understand it.
You are politically incorrect, which I think in some of your stuff, which is a blessing.
But you don't lean on it.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, there's this thing, I'm sure it's not anything new, but I just always tried to, I remember people saying early on, they're like, just, the thing you have to do is say things that make you laugh. Like, don't go, yeah. I wonder if people will like this. And I'll say it, like, I try to stick to like genuinely, this point of view makes me laugh. This story makes me laugh. If I think something is, I'm talking about like a societal norm is worthy of mockery, then like, I feel like mocking this. So then I just do that, but I'm not doing it because I hope this audience likes it and this one won't. I try to stay honest to what makes me laugh.
And also when you walk out there and your whole physical demeanor and you're so relaxed. I mean, even Next Level and so comfortable. It's a living room. So if something doesn't land, you kind of smile like drowning the dog. It's not about, you'd have to, for people who are listening right now, it's a long story about loving his kid more than an animal. And then the way you just went places people don't expect. And so that's the antithesis of boredom. You don't know what Tom Segura is going to do.
And you can't see it coming. You don't want an act where you can see it coming and you go, and then he's going to say this and then that. But that is a hard thing to do, but like Dana was saying, you're out of the box a bit. So you're sort of underground, but famous. And then, and you make a ton of money more than most people that people know of that are, household names. And you've done it on your own terms. And also, I don't think you are as worried about getting canceled, because what are they canceling you from? You're your own boss, your own podcast.
What am I going to get not hired to do?
Yeah, you're your own show. You have 54 podcasts. You have Dana. His tour is called "I'm Coming Everywhere." It's funny his name. I heard you talking about that, and I heard you talking about taking a private jet, which is hard to talk about, of course, but it is fun to talk about because you're right that in some of those instances, there's almost no way to get to where you got to go. Here's what I actually explained on a couple of podcasts was the fact that if you're touring as insanely as I'm talking about the logistically, I go, I don't have to charter a plane, but I go, what I would have to do is reduce this tour. Like there would be no way to go. I'm doing Ottawa and then Spokane and then Eugene and then Boise. Like I go, well, you just can't do that if you're flying commercially. So we would just change the tour. Sure. I mean, it's what you want to do. And if you can factor it in and you're making enough, it's fine. It's really just all a numbers game. And if on my tour, I don't do it as hitting the pavement as hard as you. But when I do it, and I have 3 nights in a row, usually, if there's a connection involved, it's already a red flag, because
that's a red flag.
With no one coming to work lately, COVID, canceled flights, you're like, I don't like going the day before every show because that's such a production. Then you're there all night, then all day again. So decisions have to be made, but it's obviously private jets perk people's ears because it's one of those things that even if you're rich, it's out of your league. Like it's such
an excess. It's such an indulgence. It is time travel. Like the thing that's crazy about it is you go, I can't believe the show ended and now we're in the next city and it's only been 2 hours. Like it feels like you teleported. The thing about it is you go, you know, like you don't have to do it. It does make a tour like this possible. I will say this, you know, we don't do it like every leg of this tour, every flight or anything. The times on this tour that we've done commercial travel, 90% of them have come with an issue, meaning like delays, cancellations. It has. So every time we do it, we're like, oh my God, we're so much more appreciative of when we have been able to charter, because it has screwed up almost every leg of travel that we've done with it, you know?
Oh yeah. You got to come in early then, because you can't trust commercial. Yeah. And so you have a job to do. I heard that early on when Louis C.K. first did a Citation 10, like, okay, I got to do this. And so we do 3 dates. So the first date would just pay for the jet and then do the next 2 dates. That's how different it is. And in terms of your health and wellness, when you're touring like you are, like more than 200 dates a year, the multiple flights in the hotel, you could beat the shit out of yourself. Like it's not.
It does. I mean, we do that travel, which obviously like makes it nicer. I bring a trainer with me, dude. I bring a trainer with me because it's trying to just keep your mental and physical health going. Yeah, it's fucking so demanding.
It's just not. It shouldn't be allowable if you have the means to have a trainer and eat well and actually do the tour and end up not hurting your health. You know, people kind of ignore that. But why am I doing this if I'm going to end up coming back home and have gained all this weight and have migraines or whatever? So I'm glad to hear that you're pacing it that way.
And I've done that, you know, like in my earlier years, my touring, which was not at this level, was me gaining 30 pounds in a year and feeling like shit all the time.
Because you're eating at every airport and eating, and you know, and if you can control that. Plus, you know, the bottom line is, for me, I'm sure you guys too, you owe the audience a good show and you need to be present. It's harder than it seems to sit there and do your hour or over an hour, whatever, and go. It's like a play. You have to remember all the connective tissue and everything, and it has to flow. And if you're out of it a little bit, sometimes you're missing beats and just off rhythm, and they pay the price. So they're paying a lot. They're coming out. They're getting babysitters. You're like, shit, I got to get there on time. I got to be ready. I got to look okay. And I think everyone feels that. So whatever it takes. Yeah, you got to try.
You got to try, man. And I always like, you know, I don't know if you ever do this, but like you're backstage and maybe you're worn out. You're just dragging. You're like, man, it's the fucking 7th show this week and 4th city. And I'm like, God damn it. And I'll be on my phone and I'll pull up. And this is like, I guess the upside to seeing a social media thing. I'll see things I'm tagged in, and you see people
in the audience. Yeah.
And then I see that and I'm like, oh man, they're like so pumped to be here. And it completely changes my mental state before I go. I'm like, you know what? These people are excited. I need to get excited. I need to like wake up and appreciate the fact that there's people here and like try to have a good show. But it's easy to fall into the other side, you know?
Yeah. I call it the forget to have fun problem. And if you forget to have fun and you're out there and it's not feeling right, and you go, oh, I forgot to have fun.
Do you have a trick? Do you have a, like, I used to like, I always say that the best version of myself as a comedian, and this is a very simple way of describing it, but I think it's that when I walk on stage in a silly mood, like me feeling silly is the best version of stand-up that I can be. But what I forget sometimes is to remind myself of that, and to like and I'll sometimes I'll see an image, and for me and my own memories, it's for some reason it's seeing Eddie Murphy in his early days, like in Delirious and stuff, because I feel like that's a fun, silly guy. So like if I see that image, I'll be like, oh, that guy's like having fun. He's having a good time. He's playful.
Yes.
So I always wonder like what other people do to switch into a different headspace. Do you ever do anything to like switch your headspace?
Well, the minute I come out, I probably make a fool of myself, but I put on Suspicious Minds normally by Elvis Presley, and that it seems so absurd and doesn't make any sense, and I'm coming out to that. I try to get into the absurdity of what I'm doing up there, but the first laugh kind of gets me going, you know. But I've got, in the olden days when you're first doing stand-up, you're going, God, I don't feel funny today. I don't feel very funny. You're very superstitious. And later on, you can be sick. You don't feel funny at all. And then have your best show. So you get used to it. But yeah.
Dane and I have a few questions about your podcast. You have your mom's house, correct? You have that's with your lovely wife.
With your lovely wife.
Yes, Christina P.
And who I know, and she's great. She was on Lights Out. Also, you have one with that guy. Who's that big guy?
Ooh, big guy. Oh, real heavy guy.
Flirt, hurt. Fleisner.
Flirt was fun. And you met him great. Years ago. And was that, you already had your first podcast? Was that going into doing a second one?
Yes. The funny thing was we talked about it and we threw it together. And I thought we came up with the idea to do it twice a month. I was like, why don't we do this twice a month just for fun?
Sure.
And, within a couple months, the feedback was like, people were so into it that we were like, all right, we got to do it every week. And now we do it every week. He has to fly here. I've flown to LA to do it. Yeah. If we can't get together, each one of us will sit with a guest to do it. But it's become a huge, huge podcast. And companies approach us and want us to be like their partners and things. And it's literally just the two of us just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
Mostly him just rambling incoherently about his nonsense.
Well, it's a good team. I mean, when he had Sober October, I saw that episode, and it was just I think long term, if things are funny, it's great. But then also, you're kind of feeling a real thing happening between two friends.
We're good friends. I mean, I got him. We've been getting each other crazy birthday gifts for years now. I just got him Hitler's teacup. And I got him a bust made of himself, and we always.
I saw one of those in Sky Mall. They have Hitler's, a lot of Hitler stuff.
This one I had to go through a white supremacist. It was a lot of work.
Can I ask you about the video aspect? So, did you always do it on video on YouTube, or did you ever do just an audio podcast?
Audio only for the first. Let's see, 2010, 11, 12.
Wow. Ooh.
13. And then we started to do video, just like we would put up 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know what that was. We did that in 2014. We were like, oh, here's 15 minutes of this.
Yeah.
From the show. And then we finally were like, we need to, we set up sticks and we got that going. And that eventually became a huge game changer. Having it on, having it on YouTube is like a huge.
Did you get the same amount of audio listens? And then you got the additional, or was it even more audio listens?
It's evolved in different ways. So audio was obviously the only thing. And then you throw in video, you start getting views, but the audio is much bigger. And it was also still, from an advertising perspective, they're like, audio downloads are all that matters. When the video views started to go above a certain amount, is when people were like, okay, we can't ignore the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of views on this thing.
It's like a TV show.
They're like, it's worth advertising on, is what it came down to. And then, you had to convince, some of the people were like, well, that's just the same people. And you're like, what do you talk? You think people are listening to episode and then going and watching a 2-hour thing? Like, what are you talking about? And that, they also would make the argument, well, we don't know how many, if you listen to a song on YouTube, if you watch the video of a song, you might watch it 6 times. They're like, what if people are doing that on your podcast? And you're like, you think they're rewatching this 2.5 hour podcast? So I would get in the shouting matches with advertising people about this, like actual shouting matches.
And you do it.
I was fucking yelling at these people.
Yeah.
And then the year fucking changes and they go, oh, hey, by the way, we wanted to inquire about advertising on the video portion. I'm like, yeah, you mean the thing I've been talking to you about for 2 years? And so that then became a thing that is highly valuable. And you just obviously you watch the bigger thing, you see a Rogan show when he was on YouTube. You're like, look, man, there's 10 million people watching this. You don't think that's worthy? That's all those eyeballs, man. And I think now if you start a podcast,
and the clips go out. Clips is a big thing.
clips is a huge thing. A lot of times, if you think about it, your fan base is going to consume the whole thing. Talking about the full like scope of people, most of them want to see a bite-sized thing. Like in our world here, we've had a number of clips go viral, but they're the clips, these like moments that blow up. But it would not have happened without video. Video is what took it over.
Yeah. And then you go into your ones I contacted you about when I heard that you were doing live shows. Such an interesting idea, and it was a huge success. And that was a pandemic was a smart move, and that was another game changer, right?
Kind of saved my ass, dude. Like, I mean, my main thing, I mean, obviously the podcast is a fixed thing, and you go, okay, we have ads and
roughly we'll make this much.
Yeah, everything associated with it. But you're like, I'm a touring comedian. And then when the pandemic hit and you're like, oh wait, there's none of this, like this is completely done. That was like, well, how do we do? And it was an experiment. My agent my touring agent was like, you should try this. I go, well, we have to figure out an angle. So we tried it and we're like, all right, we'll do $10 tickets. Like it's a reasonable price. And we'll show things that you can't show on YouTube, and we'll shoot some sketches. So we add some value to the show. Why? Like
that's the hard part, the value.
Yeah.
But then you go for $10. If you do 3 or 4 sketches and you show some stuff you can't see anywhere else, and you bring in a guest, and we had a musical guest, you're like, all right, this is like, it is a thing.
Yeah.
If this was a $10 ticket to walk into a venue, you'd be like, yeah, that's worth it. And that thing went fucking bananas. And so once we saw that, I told the because agents are always like, let's make it $20. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Well, I go, we keep it $10 tickets, and we just try to just try to do volume. And we started to do them like every 6 or 8 weeks or something, and spending over $100,000 producing the episode. So it's not just like, oh, hey, here's my friend. Yeah, we actually put money into making it a special event and into production.
Just for a second, Tom, because I'm curious about details. Where was you have 2 studios? Where were you interviewing Tarantino? Because I love that interview, which was just recently on Quentin Tarantino. Is that your studio right there? Okay.
Did you get to the part where he roasted me for not reading his book?
No. Did he?
I like that.
I was impressed with your knowledge of Pulp Fiction. I mean, there was a lot of Pulp Fiction.
I really was like, I was asking all the questions I want to ask Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
And he's there going like, I want to talk about this fucking book I wrote.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he's like, hey, what page are you on? So I was like, oh, fuck.
Oh no. And he's kind of intimidating.
Oh yeah. And I was like, he goes, so you're on page 3? Is that what I'm getting out of this? And I was like,
if that. Dana, remember we did because we're talking about SNL this whole time. We did Quentin Tarantino's Welcome Back, Kotter, that sketch, and it was I got to play Horseshack. Oh, Mr. Kotter. And then it was, I guess John Travolta was the host, so he came in, and they shot up everyone. It was like a bloody sketch that got really bad really quick. But I don't think Quentin was on the show. I think it was only because it was John Travolta was on the show.
He was hanging out. He said, yeah.
Okay.
He really has that like savant level knowledge of cinema to the point where you're like, I mean, like he is citing, the composer from this movie in '63 and the actor who also appeared in the thing. You're like, dude, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but I like movies too.
I love movies, but yeah, he is the next level of next level. And the way you guys broke down that scene in Inglourious Bastards, the whole
I loved it.
American speaking German, that whole segment, and how he said a lot of times you'll see his scenes and there's a familiarity to them, but he's doing things and he's making them better than you've ever seen them done. And that was the case of it. And an original take on something we've seen. You know?
Yes, I love his movies. I love his movies.
Yeah, me too. I was hosting Jimmy Kimmel, and he came out, and I couldn't help it. I go, I love you. I was just like, I said, because I know you through your choices in your movies, and I just appreciate your sense of humor, you know?
Yeah, so funny.
May I have another glass of your delicious milk? Christoph Waltz and Glorious Bastards.
Yeah, so good.
Listen, Tom's a Cincinnati native. I'm wrapping him up. Watch this, Dana.
Let me see.
My parents went to Denison, which is a college near Cincinnati. Or did you not know that? Don't Tarantino me. Denison is where they both went. You're not lighting up enough about that. You are part Cajun. Cajun man is from Cajun. You overdosed on GHB at 19.
Why is that
short
in here?
coma? Short coma.
Yeah.
A coma's terrifying.
It was 25 years ago last week. It was the day after Thanksgiving, 25 years ago. You know, it was the first time I was a freshman in college. I got together with all the people who are like back, you know, you're back home for the first time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just was on a tear that night and I was drinking, and I used to do GHB a lot. And the number one rule, they were like, you do not mix this with alcohol. That was the number one rule. They're like, and I drank like 10, 12, you know, screwdrivers. And then I just took a massive dose of it.
Oh,
but you lived. You also were last comic standing. And my quick question is that the kind where you lived in the house?
I never made it. I showcased on TV on the show, but they just showed me for like a second. I didn't get passed on, even though I would not really. I'll just say that was some bullshit. They were just casting that show.
Who won, and then who did you say when they won? They suck. They're dog shit.
I don't remember anybody I showcased with. I mean, it was all like we were all unknowns.
Oh yeah.
They literally were like, "Oh, put the short, chubby girl, get that tall Indian guy."
Yeah.
Like it was just casting.
Yeah.
Someone sent me an Instagram of you doing your bit where you end up yelling bikes because they knew I was going to interview you, and let's do it. It was hysterical. That whole piece is like just
that. That is funny to me. That I mean, everybody has like their most known bit, and for sure for me, it is bikes.
Yeah, scared straight. Yeah, little kids going to prison and getting browbeat by
every day of my life. They yell bikes.
Scared straight.
Do you actually do stand up in Spanish?
Yes, I was supposed to do a special in Spanish, and then I started touring in Spanish. Because they were like, do a special. I was like, well, I gotta like work it out, man.
Wow, hard.
If we're doing it in English, I do the show 200 times. I gotta at least do 50, you know, in Spanish. And I probably did 6 weekends in Spanish. I did, you know, a Texas weekend. I did like Houston, Dallas, San Antonio. I did Tempe. I did San Jose. And then the pandemic kind of just changed everything because that was when I was like gearing up for it. And then by the time that resolved itself, it was like the English tour was coming back, and it was too much to try to do both.
Well, let me ask you a question. If the English language has certain rhythms that comedians use, you know, so she blew me or whatever, so bump, bump, bump. Do you have to adjust when you're doing the rhythms of Spanish?
I actually remember I did this show with Richard Villa. This is a very funny comedian who's bilingual, Mexican American, and he was like, dude, he's like, you realize you're doing exactly Tom Segura that we know in English. He's like, you don't have to change anything. You're delivering exactly as you do in Spanish. And he was like, so you don't have to like mess with anything.
He said she's a hot chick. She's caliente, or
he.
But caliente is hot, right?
Oh, you're talking about if I'm saying it.
Saying it in Spanish, the syllables are more, and does that affect the rhythm?
But I'm saying the delivery, you can keep your delivery authentic.
Yeah, got it.
Because you hear singers.
Culture you learn, which is like some like they like innuendo, and they really like a wink and a nod. Some cultures do, which I was like, I don't want to do that. And they're like, watch, and you just see how much they love the double meaning, the double and that stuff. But I just didn't make it part of my act. I saw that like some audiences really like that, but I was like, I'm not going to embrace doing a different style.
So your brain because I'm not bilingual. You have your brain and you have your bit in your head, and you just adjust it, and then you're just doing it all in Spanish.
Yeah,
and
you start figuring out. At first, your brain goes, translate this exactly, and that actually leads you into a place where you have gaps and there's things not getting laughs.
Okay.
Then what you have to do is you have to slow down and just start talking. And stop trying to translate exactly.
Yeah.
And that's when it starts to work more. And then you actually start writing in Spanish. And that's when it goes the best, is because you're not actually trying to make this thing work over here that worked over there. You're just creating for them.
Okay. So that makes sense to me. It's a beautiful language. I'm constantly trying to speak Spanish.
It's very hard
to people who work.
It was it was so much more work than I imagined. And I would say that the kind of cool thing is that I had not been that nervous to do stand-up in over a decade. In other words, I get, in English, sure, I get butterflies. You're like, you're about to go on stage and you might have some nerves. But the way that I would feel before I went on stage for these Spanish shows was like year 2 of stand-up. So that was exciting because I was in a full panic of like, I might fuck this up. I might bomb. I might not. Like, that was kind of exciting. I was like, man, I never feel like this in English anymore.
Did the audience knows you're doing that? It's so-called your second language, your other language. Were they just, did you get a standing ovation just for the sheer effort of it?
Sometimes, yes. Yeah, they would be. And you'd see a lot of like fans of mine who are bilingual, like they're the children of immigrants. And so they're fans of me in English. They hear I'm doing the Spanish show and they're bringing their parents.
Because they understand. Yeah.
That would be happening too. That was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Well, Tom, thank you.
Well, that's all I wanted. I checked off all my questions.
Yeah.
Let me just say, Dana, it was an honor.
Yes, Tom, thank you so much. I don't know who that other guy was, but he seems really funny.
I was on Tom's podcast and we had a great time.
We did have a great time.
It was a blast, actually. And
I just want to say our guest today was Tom Segura, a funny young man. I can actually do a stand-up in Spanish or English. Did you know that, Ed? Muy bueno. Is that it?
Is that weird?
That's weird, wild stuff.
I was just doing that for your 14-year-old self, your 14-year-old.
That was awesome, man.
Oh,
Thanks,
good.
Tom.
Well, you guys, anytime you want to charter out here and podcast, we would love to have you,
Oh, I'll definitely come out.
You bought a steak one night in Austin.
That was good.
Took
I
care
want
of
to be
us.
in that. I want to sit where Tarantino sat.
Listen, you have an open invite.
Yeah, that was. I did get chills when he kind of challenged you on the book. That would be intimidating. He's got so much energy and so much knowledge. He's such a funny, interesting character to listen to about film, man. But that shows you. I had him on Kimmel, and you have 3 minutes commercial break. I was the guest host, and then you sit there for an hour and really get into stuff. So podcasting is an extraordinary, for me, new development in the way of being authentic, and it's so much cooler and more fun than the band and the audience, which is great too. It's a big rock and roll moment, but it's like 3 minutes in, you got to get to a commercial and stuff. This is awesome. So anyway,
come out to Austin, man.
I will. There's a nonstop direct if I don't fly.
Yeah,
private.
Go, Dana. Stop being like this.
I will go out and do it if we can have a dinner afterwards, because I kind of want to pick your brain about what you know, because I still am trying to learn this whole world, analytics and stuff. And
I feel like we just set a date.
Yeah, we sort of did. Yeah.
Yeah, I can eat anything, So you're fit now. We get your trainer, your chef, maybe cooks, and we just eat on the set. Or
we can't go to that meat store we went to.
2018 is when you came out for that special, and you'd lost weight and you had a cool jacket. You kind of were a rock star. That it switched there a little bit,
Yeah, and then the special 2 years later, I gained 20 pounds back.
Did you really? I didn't notice on the final one. Really?
On Ball Hog, I definitely gained about 20 pounds. 3 weeks ago, I shot a new special.
God damn, relax.
I was just so thankful that I weighed less than I've ever weighed in a special.
That's all. You don't have any jokes. You're like in a mirror, just like, check this out, guy.
But I think it's kind of nice if you can have a nice family and make a lot of money and be creatively fulfilled, and then also be really healthy and feel comfortable walking around on the planet. It's kind of a nice feeling. So David, just a little
All right.
pointer. All right.
I
well,
feel
Tom,
good and light. Bye, Tom. I
thanks
miss
for
you.
all the time, Tom. All
Bye,
right.
guys.
This has been a podcast presentation of Cadence 13. Please listen, then rate, review, and follow all episodes. Available now for free wherever you get your podcast.
No joke, folks. Fly on the Wall has been a presentation of Cadence 13, executive produced by Dana Carvey and David Spade, Chris Corcoran of Cadence 13, and Charlie Finan of Brillstein Entertainment.
The show's lead producer is Greg Holtzman with production and engineering support from Serena Regan and Chris Basil of Cadence 13.